Oftentimes, when people don't see bruises on your body, or see you with black eyes, or maybe swollen face, or even broken leg, they'll be like, you're fine, you're good to go. Just go back and be patient. People are always in denial of the existence of emotional or psychological abuse, or any other type of abuse or violence. And we have to understand that abuse comes in different forms. It can be manipulation, it can be narcissistic behavior from people, or those people who are willing to feed their insecurities. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I welcome you all to the show Deen and Duniyah. My name is Rahma Mustafa Goni, and I have with me in the studio our special guest, Mrs. Aishat Adabiruku. She is the founder of Master Coach Coaching and Mentoring Hub. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And then I have with me my co-host, Abdul Rashid Abdul Fattah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So today we have for you an interesting topic because we'd like to be bringing issues that people are not comfortable talking about them. Maybe because they're shy or they feel it's a taboo to talk about them. So we'd like to bring these issues onto the table and try to address them. Our today's topic is domestic violence. So oftentimes we know that, well, men also go through violence, but the majority of people who are victims of violence are women. You'll hear people saying, okay, for you to be a good woman, you'll have to endure and suffer in silence. They equate goodness to suffering. And whenever you feel like, okay, I'm not taking this anymore, they'll be like, okay, now she's a bad woman, or she's bad, so we didn't know about that. So I don't know how people are relating goodness to these kind of things while they would want to just leave you in there to suffer.
Okay. From my own experience, offering family therapy to a number of women, some of the challenges women face in the society is we live in a patriarchal society.
Sure.
Not only do we live in a patriarchal society, there are established norms. In neuro-linguistic programming, we look at upbringing, significant emotional experiences, environment, and education as what drives people's beliefs and values. And for us here, especially in Nigeria, we have the culture of promoting stay in marriage at any cost. And because of this, it can condition women to, have that patience in quote that you mentioned with regards to when they face violence from their husbands in the home. And this has far-reaching consequences.
Sure. And there is this thing of even when a man is going to pick a wife, they'll be like, okay, she should be docile, she should be just quiet, and they'll be like, it's not your authority to talk to him or to maybe confront him about some things. Or maybe if he's an abuser, they will be like, you're always the trigger, it's your fault, so why did you talk to him that way? And then he beats you up. And because there is an example of this woman that she married this man, but he actually left his first wife, and maybe they did not even investigate to know what was the cause of the divorce. And then she married him. Later on, he started battering her, and she stayed in the marriage for like 13 or 14 years. And when she was about to leave to say, no, I'm not taking this anymore, he took the custody of the children, and she couldn't even have access to them. So some of them remain in such situations because maybe they're being threatened or they will lose everything. So why it's just confusing to know that people still stay there, without seeking help.
Okay. So if we look at, Islam and the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as our role model, we would know that our mothers were very engaging with him. And none of them was docile.
Exactly.
He used to seek their advice. One of our mothers played a critical role in the Treaty of Al-Hudaybiyah. Our mother Aisha, she was an intellectual. The Prophet ﷺ said you can even learn half of your knowledge from her. So this is not Islam.
It's kind of religious manipulation.
It's largely cultural. It's not Islam.
I think they're looking at it as a form of employer-employee status instead of like a partnership.
Even a slavery kind of a thing.
Exactly. It's not really, when you think about it, it's like you begin to wonder how some people think this way. And I think it all, like what you said earlier, it all goes back down to their upbringing and how they were brought up. Because it's a vicious circle. You see the children that watch their parents, maybe the father being violent towards the mother, how when they grow up they imitate that behavior, and I think it just goes on and on and on. So you keep thinking, okay, what can you do to now break that circle? What can you do to change things, to make things different on a large scale?
Like you said, it's modeling. Children copy. You know, like Tarzan, when he grew up with the animals, he learned to jump from tree to tree and eat raw, leaves and what have you. So, if we want to change this trajectory, we have to sensitize the youth, and we have to continue the sensitization and do hands-on intervention to enable this change. And anyone can break this chain. You can be young, you can be old, but you can break chains. We need to be practical. It's not by only having conversations. Having conversation is a starter. It opens up people's minds to see that, oh, this is actually a dysfunction. It's not supposed to be the norm. If we have decided to mix culture with Islam, when Islam in the Quran, we've been told that we're all equal. The husband has a degree above the wife to the extent that he maintains her.
Some people would say one of the best marriages they've seen is that of their parents. So they expect their wife to be exactly like their mother, or they would like to just emulate whatever their parents did. But for me, I believe that you are different from your parents. Everybody is different. I think people should do what works for them. There are some certain principles that are there that you can take and learn from it, but I think you shouldn't just do exactly just like how our boys are raised or our men are raised. They'll be like, okay, their mom does everything for them. They don't have sense of responsibility, sense of respect for women or for people, and then they expect the wife to do the same thing. So what can you say about that? So
for me, I've been doing this work for years. What has been my experience? What have I seen? What I've seen are a situation where we repeat what has gone by. And we're people of knowledge as Muslims. And as people of knowledge, we should seek the right form of education for any venture we want to venture into, which includes marriage. So premarital counseling, as far as I'm concerned, should be mandatory in all mosques in Nigeria. Any mosque that wants to, consummate a nikah should ask the couple for a certificate that they've gone through premarital counseling. So beyond premarital counseling, people should be mandated to go through a parenting course.
Exactly.
And we offer all of this as matter.
But people nowadays think that, okay, if they're of age and they're about to get married, they automatically qualify.
There is no automatic
qualification.
What you have seen, the fact is this: your wife or the wife to be is coming from a different home, the husband is coming from a different home, and there will be clashes if they don't understand what they're supposed to learn for marriage, instead of just bringing what they had from their own upbringing to the current, a new home that they're starting. Some of the values, are good, but some are not based on the right principles of Islam or even right thinking individuals, because some of this dysfunction gets passed from one generation to another. And from psychological research, by the 7th generation, the dysfunction is amplified, which is why we all need to work on ourselves pre-marriage. In the last couple of years, about 3 years, I have done up to like 300 premarital counseling counseling sessions.
So people are getting
get married
familiar.
a lot.
No, people are getting familiar with the counseling. It's a good thing.
People. So sometimes I tell couples that when you're talking to your spouse, check that the father is not sitting on the right shoulder and the mother is not sitting on the left shoulder.
That's true. But I heard somebody saying they know their rights, and if anything like violence happens, they're just going to walk away.
I think
and
that's,
people are saying,
that's like from the youths of today that are much more. We are getting this sensitization. So, and I think most of the time we focus on the youth or the young couples, or so I keep wondering: is it that there is no hope for the older couples that even though at that age there is still this tension between husband and wife that it has been going on for years and years, and I don't want to call it old school, but the idea that like what you said, you just have to stay in the marriage no matter what. Mind you, some men also get abused, let's not forget that, but just to
I love you representing your gender.
but just to yeah, basically it's just is that there is no hope for the older generations, and what can we the youth also do to step in? Because I've spoken to some children, some of my peers that are like, they see these things happening between their parents, but they can't really step in to do anything. Sometimes it might be because of shyness, or they themselves are even afraid of either the mother's wrath or the father's wrath. I'm keeping it balanced. So either wrath of, or the wrath of either one of them. So I don't really know, what can we, do to either sensitize them or to help the youths to now attack it on a personal level in every home. The home is the smallest unit of the society, and any change that is made in the home will reflect on the society.
Yes, beautiful. The home being the minute unit of any society shows us that whatever we're seeing on the outside came from one home. Now, what is the role of each individual in that home? The father, like the hadith of the Prophet was shepherd. The father is the shepherd over the household. The mother is the shepherd of the father is the shepherd over the family. The mother is the shepherd over the household, and so on and so forth. So what can youths do? Youths can provide nasiha. And it is not their responsibility to right the wrongs, because you'll be putting too much pressure on a child to say the child should now mentor the adults to behave right. But what can the child do? The child can encourage the parents to go for counseling. I have had couples who have taken through counseling able to resolve their marital challenges. It takes time. Anything you want to achieve results. Look at a couple has been married for maybe 10, 20 years. They're used to a particular way of doing things. They now have a PhD, and they practice that PhD in that dysfunction. Now you are asking them to stop what they are doing. Miracles do happen,
but not all the time.
Now, sometimes we need to tie our camel. But actually, when Allah wanted when he wanted to answer the dua of Prophet Noah, he asked him to go and build a boat. So sometimes we need, as couples, the couples need to build their boats and learn through that process of building their marital boat how to be better married people and better parents, because otherwise they pass on the dysfunction. So a lot of time Prophet Noah went back to Allah. Allah said, go back. Allah, they've messed up the ship. Go back
and do it again.
So the thing is, we need to be able to commit to learning, unlearning, and relearning. Ivan Toffler said something. He said the illiterate of the 21st century is not that person who can neither read nor write, but that person who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And this is what it takes for us sometimes to break dysfunction.
Wow. Dear viewers, this is still the show, Deen and Duniyah. I am enjoying myself. I hope you are enjoying too. But we'll now take a break and we'll come back soon, inshallah. Dear viewers, welcome back. It's still the show, Deen and Duniyah, and the topic is domestic violence. So we've been discussing about the issues we see around about domestic violence, and that reminds me of what Leslie Morgan said, and she was like, the abusers actually follow stages before they finally strike. She was like, first of all, they're going to show you so much love so that you'll trust them, and then you'll become comfortable with them. Then they'll start to isolate you, start to stop you from doing what you like, taking you away from people that could rescue you, and then later on they'll start threatening you that if you try leaving or try doing something, they're actually going to come after you. Then finally they'll strike by maybe hitting you or punching you in the face, all these things. And she was like, that was how her husband started, and everything was fine. Then later on he started beating her up, and it became like a norm that he would normally beat her up maybe twice in a week. and she stayed there for a very long time, and then later on she had to break the cycle. So it's really interesting to know that people that are really suffering from these things are still staying in the marriage or in the relationship or friendship or whatever type of ship. So I don't know, can you tell us why?
Okay, so like you said, you described narcissistic abuse.
Okay.
And when it comes to that specific type of abuse, you know, it follows the stages that you mentioned, and the individual can actually break away at any point by making sure that they have strong support network. So that's why you should never neglect your support network when you get married. And beyond this, in Islam, we have been encouraged to do istishara, find it out before marriage. So like the case of the 30-year-old marriage you mentioned, if the first marriage was abusive and, you know, the parents of the girl and the girl herself had taken the time, the lady herself had taken the time to actually do their investigation properly, it would have revealed that this
Treat,
this exists
for the former,
yes, that this exists. So it's very important for us to, as an Uber, be more conscious about investigating who our children, both male and female, are about to get married to, so that we understand if there is an existing character trait in the family, or if the person has been married before, if there is an existing abuse, so that we can save ourselves years of heartache. So at any point in this cycle, a woman can break free. Is it at the point of being bombarded by love? Is it at the point of starting to isolate? So individuals need to be able to have self-love, because sometimes there is also a feeling of unworthiness in individuals, which narcissistic people take advantage of. So individuals should have self-love, and from this love, give out of it. You know, I've had some people describe, you know, some situations that they actually caused it. Now, they weren't assertive enough. They were depending on externals for validation. So know that you are whole. So two whole people go into marriage. Marriage does not complete you, it complements you.
Sure.
Please need to repeat that.
Marriage does not complete you, it complements you. Allah has made you whole. You're whole. You don't need anybody from outside to make you whole.
That's true.
So know that marriage is complementary. Whatever you're wanting from outside, you should be able to give it to yourself. Is it care? Is it love? I've had some women describe things they wanted from their husbands, and they were not even giving this to themselves. How do you expect somebody to give you something you're not willing to give to yourself? Why are you waiting for love to come from outside when you can love yourself first?
It even increases your value as a person on its own, and then no man or woman will look down on you that I will just keep this person as my prisoner. And before we even continue, I think I want us to now broaden the scope a little bit, because when you talk about domestic violence, it's domestic. I think it covers the whole home, and we've heard of cases where the children are now for example, maybe there is a house help in the house, the children are now the ones molesting or abusing the help, or it might come from the parents themselves, and sometimes it might even come from an uncle to the nephew or niece, or from even directly from the parents. So what can we now say to children that are now being abused? Sometimes most of them do not really even understand that it is abuse. Sometimes you just feel like these people just hate me, or that's how it is supposed to be, and then when they grow up, it has this effect on their psyche and how they think. So you sometimes you really see it and you feel pity for them. So what can we say to them to help them,
and sometimes they come to them with threats, so they cannot speak up,
and they're kids, so it's like your whole life is being controlled by this person. There is no outside source of that you can go to or run away to. I mean, they were like, okay, if you run away, where will you run away to?
Sure.
So I don't know, what can we really say to these children or these teenagers that can help them to speak out or can help them to find help? Just show them, give them pointers where to go to, what to do, and how to go about it.
Thank you so much for that very volatile question.
No.
The fact is, as long as the world exists, we would have abusers. Because some of these abusers have been conditioned to abuse because they have been hurt people, they've been through abuse themselves.
Yeah.
So,
Some of them is a psychological problem they have, and like you said, not everybody that appears normal in the range of normal is actually normal. So what can individuals do, especially children? They don't have as much access to information as adults do, and there is sometimes the abuser is threatening, sometimes the abuser is even the parents themselves. That's why I want schools to have real counseling units, because it's one of the first points of call for children, and school administrators should take this cases seriously. The counselors in schools should be well trained to be able to handle this sort of cases, to know the right, because if you tell them to go to human rights, they may not even know where to go. But if the school counselor is able to take these cases to human rights, the human rights should take school counselors up. They should provide maybe seed funding for escalating this sort of thing. The government should take an active interest in the young.
I think that's a really big problem. Schools don't really take it as seriously as they should.
Most private schools, they are after school fees. The
And
parents,
just the money.
when one parent can pay 2 million, 3 million for a
For a
child,
child.
so how would they want to kill the cow?
Exactly. They will not want the parent to withdraw the child from the school.
But school administration is a moral obligation. You are a custodian. Allah is going to ask you.
Sure.
You need to take a more active role in the lives of those children under your custody. If the home is not providing the security they deserve, the school should be able to step in.
Security.
So levels as a child, if you're facing any level of emotional abuse could be physical, it could be sexual harassment, it could be actual sexual abuse, which is it involves penetration, it could be emotional, it could be psychological. If you feel uncomfortable with any of your parents, any of your uncles, any of your house helps, please speak out. Speak to your school counselor or somebody you trust at school, or go online and search for the number of human rights and call them. You'll be able to get help by the grace of Allah, and make du'as. May Allah keep us safe in places that are supposed to be safe for us.
I think do we categorize, these cases of bullying within the schools? Do we also categorize them under domestic violence? Because the classroom is also supposed to be a domestic environment. Because I remember when I was in secondary school, we weren't that much in a class. I think when I was in SS3, we weren't that much. So it was a second family away from home. We were like one big happy family with our teachers, and within the students ourselves, everyone was, always have, at a point in time, you will have an interaction with at one person. You must at least just, everyone knows everybody. So it is like if a case of bullying or something of that sort comes up within the classroom, I feel like we should still categorize it under domestic violence, and it's still within the school. So I think the idea of school counseling has to be involved. That's just basically
most schools today that have investigated don't have active school counselors, and some of them that have interacted with that have counselors are not trained. So you see the counselor just all over the place doing things that they feel in their mind, not doing things professionally.
Or sometimes it might be a teacher that they just asked to be the
counselor that have engaged. No professional.
Honestly, until now that you've mentioned, I've even never heard of any school saying they have counselors for kids or
There are
something
some
like that.
schools that actually have counselors, but some of the counselors are not professional at all. They are not trained.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, they have to go
So they
through
do
training.
what we call native counseling, which is a mixture of culture and their beliefs
And their own personal
values.
beliefs.
Yes. But counseling goes beyond that. You have to be a professional. You have to understand psychology.
So now going back to the issue of people staying in abuse, some victims actually said that, okay, there are two difficult questions to answer. The first one is the victim asking himself or herself that, okay, why am I still here? And they'll be like, mostly the abusers would like to share maybe a very huge secret with them to feel like, hey, I'm very strong, so now I'm the one to be this person's savior. Because maybe they've suffered from something from before, so I'll have to be there so that I'll help them. Or if some people outside ask them why they're still there, they'll be like, okay, they'll just take everything away from me and I don't know how to start. So, dear viewers, this is still the show Deen and Duniyah. Now I'm going to ask our special guest to tell us what to do, just maybe one or two advice for the abusers to stop doing it and also for the victims.
Yeah. So the thing is, it gets very uncomfortable before it gets comfortable. It's like when Allah asked Prophet Noah to build the boat. Sometimes getting out of a trial, this is a trial. Like I had, you know, a lady come to me recently. She's a graduate, but her uncle was sexually harassing her. And it had gotten to the point where he said, give me the real goods or get out of my house. And I told her that you're a graduate, you have a choice. Go back to your parents, you have a parent, or do something, but don't stay in that environment. So sometimes it requires us changing environment. And she was, you know, she was not too pleased with leaving the house. She said, I don't have a job, where do I go to? And from her profile, I could see that she was struggling with her faith in Allah because she felt abandoned. Because some of the questions abused people ask is, where was Allah when this was happening?
Exactly.
Why me?
Why me? The question I asked her was, will the blind person or the deaf person or the lame person ask Allah, why me? These are your own unique trials. And Allah does not give you a trial that you do not have the resources to work at.
Exactly.
So it could be you building a boat. It gets very uncomfortable before it gets comfortable. You have to be your own source of strength. You have all the resources within you to fight that thing. Look at Nigeria. We are resource rich, but we're in an unresourceful state. So sometimes individuals have all the resources, but because of their mindset, they are not using the resources they have.
Okay, so it's like when you
They
tell
have
people
all the
there
resources.
is light at the end of the tunnel, it doesn't mean you should keep on staying there and be hoping for that
You
light.
have to
should
build your boat.
build
Because
your own
in
boat.
building the boat, you expand your muscle to be able to become that new person that is able to thrive and heal and transform. So see a family therapist to be able to help you through this. You need professional support. We offer those services as master coach coaching and mentoring help. So you can look us up and actually come to us for full heal, transform, and thrive session.
Inshallah.
I'd like to thank our dear guests for accepting our invitation. And inshallah, if we know anybody who needs help, we're going to refer them to you. And so we believe that you're going to accept our invitation in the future too.
Yes, thank you so much. My
Jazakumullahu
pleasure.
khair.